Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to the sheep pen. Bah! Where no goats are allowed. Okay, so I want to address the elephant in the room. I have been discussing male-female relationships. I've been talking about how the culture, the technology, and the influences that it causes has recreated the environment that relationships have to exist in. And I've been talking about how this very controversial scripture written by the Apostle Paul in the New Testament of the Bible. And it's one that if you preach on this, your church will go empty. And so I started with 30% of my viewers being female, and I'm down to 20. So I lost 10% of my female subscribers on this channel by even bringing this up. But I have to say that it's time somebody said something, because what we're doing now, the way we're operating now, the system that's in place today is non-functional. The system that's in place today is flawed in a terminal way. And no one can suggest that the world that we live in, the way we raise children, the way our homes are conducted, the way society is shaping up and becoming, that no one's going to argue that this is where we want to be. I think one thing that all people can agree on is that the current system is really messed up, right? It's not producing happiness in relationships. It's not producing stability in families. It's not producing well-adapted children. And that in so many ways, a very much more ancient system had a lot of superior benefits, and the world was a better place on certain levels, especially when it came to unity in the family and community and in the national narrative, right? We used to all be on the same page except on minor details, and now we're like a country split in half. And it's all related, if you ask me, to the division between men and women, the battle of the sexes. So ladies, if you hung in there with me, the 20% of you that are still watching, if you are still here, welcome, because now I'm going to address the men. Because I think one of the big mistakes that is made when this is preached from the pulpit in times past, no one preaches about it anymore, but I wish we hadn't give up on it, because I believe I've uncovered the secret for mutual happiness for both men and women. And that what women want isn't what they think they want. And I'm not trying to be insulted, because when a woman is really being honest and you ask them what they really want, you get a lot of contradictory statements from them. And ultimately, I think there's a whole group of people, a whole percentage of women my age, and either slightly older or slightly younger, who bought into the feminist ideology and lived that life only to find out they were unfulfilled, that they had either many marriages or many relationships that never took off, that they never really ever felt loved, they never ever really felt like they found the one. And if they did, they messed up somehow and he got away. And they have looked at all of this and went, you know, I would have been happier had I just, I won't say settled, but took a more traditional route than trying to have it all in the way it was presented to them through the feminist ideology. And then you got a whole group of women now that are going, you know, I got to learn how to connect with my true nature, because what I've been doing is against my own nature. I think that's what a lot of women are realizing, that when they try to be the man, when they try to be the breadwinner, the caregiver, the person in charge of everything, that what they have is either a man that's fighting them all the time, or worse yet, a man that doesn't even stand up for himself. And I think this whole group of women are probably going to find these videos at some point, I'm guessing. Because I may be the first person to really kind of get a grip on this. And part of it is, I've dated a lot of women, okay? I've dated a lot of women. I've had a lot of bad relationships that didn't pan out. I've had a lot of failed attempts. I've had a lot of successes. But nothing, the longest was 20 years. And I learned a lot from that as well. I also live vicariously in some ways through my sister, or I get my sisters. I had 2 sisters. I won't mention out loud on this channel how many times they were married, but let's just say it was a lot. And look who's talking, right? It was a lot. And I think that's the fruit of this modern system, is failure. The fruit is divorce. The fruit is multiple marriages, multiple divorces, children who live together as best they can as a family, who are either from another family completely and transplanted together in a blended family, or they have many different fathers, even though they have the same mother. And I'm not judging, I'm simply saying that it creates an unstable environment. And I don't think anybody's happy with the lifestyle that you have when you have multiple divorces and multiple marriages. Nobody likes divorce but lawyers, right? But we often feel like it's our only chance. It's our only way out. It's the last opportunity, you know, the only way to exit the situation. No way to fix it. It's usually out of total hopelessness when people finally give in. And I'm not accusing people of even being quitters. But what I'm saying is, you've been playing a game that's rigged against you. So like I said, when the Apostle Paul talked about, hang on, my door has come open. Okay, I'm back. I fixed it. It's too cold to let my door wag open. Okay. So the Apostle Paul, when he talks about this, he starts with the phrase that empties churches: wives, submit to your husbands. That was what I talked about in the first video. In the second video of this series, I talked about what happens when a wife submits to a husband, that it causes a man to have sacrificial love, because the next line is, and husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. And I believe I've proven beyond a reasonable doubt that when a woman truly gives herself to a man and doesn't fight him anymore, is not contentious, is not combative, is willing to let him be in charge and win or fail with him, but she also expects him to value her opinion. Of course, I'm not saying just be a tyrant. I was talking to somebody about this recently, and when I'm in a relationship with a woman, yes, I'm going to be in charge because I'm a type A personality, I'm a Sigma personality, and it is very much my way or the highway, right? But I don't make no decisions. I don't run it past her first. When I'm with somebody, I got with them because I valued them as a human, because I saw them as an asset to me and my life, and I valued their opinions on everything. And a lot of times I really value their intuition. Ain't nothing like a woman's intuition. I really want to know how they feel and what they think. And that's the right way, in my opinion, to be when you're relating to a woman who is being submissive and non-combative and a partner to you. And this unlocks in a man this unconditional love, this sacrificial love, like I talked about in the second video. The problem is, how do you get the woman to submit? I think that's the question that all men are asking, because it seems impossible. And I have to admit, I've been trying to get this for years with varying success and mostly failures, right? That even if you can get a woman to intellectualize this and understand this, getting her to actually do it is nearly impossible. It just doesn't really happen anymore. And so this is more than anything the big secret to all of this. Because you've heard how women are supposed to submit, and most women are going to give that a double finger right now. A double middle finger, the whole idea of it, and they voted with their feet on this channel as well. And that's the problem, and most men would say, hey, I'd love to do that, and I would guarantee you most men would recognize in themselves that if a woman would just be on their side 100% of the time, that old stand by your man woman, that old ride or die spirit, that most men, if they're good men, would love their wives so unconditionally that they would give plasma until they couldn't walk, just to make sure that they had the comforts in life. And we've talked about how when a woman is combative with a man relates to her like he would another man and becomes combative and competitive with her. And this is the core of the battle of the sexes. But now to answer the age-old, dumbfounded question that Paul did not address. How do you get a woman to actually do it? Actually try it? Actually submit enough to you so that supernatural reaction of unconditional love and sacrificial love, like Christ loved the church, he gave his life for the church. You know, how can we get a woman to submit enough for that to experience to happen? Because that's the glue that really holds a relationship together, is that when a man is willing to, when a man loves a woman, I mean, it's a thing, right? But not so much these days. Most women feel unloved because they are unloved. Because you can't love your enemy as easily as you can love somebody on your team. We're even supposed to be called to love our enemies. Well, that's for another video. But when someone is competing with you, contending with you, when someone is rallying when you're in defeat and dragging you behind when you're in victory, to make a point, to win, to be in charge, whatever you want to call it, that rebellious spirit that women exhibit when they get in, and then men just exacerbate it by competing harder and becoming more brutal and less loving. Do y'all not see the problem? But the question is, what is the solution? And Paul put it on women that they should submit first. But Paul was dealing with a different kind of man. Okay, so the new material starts right now. The Apostle Paul was dealing with men who were real men. He was dealing with men of substance and backbone in a society where men were not tolerated to be weak. That a man that would tolerate being ruled over by a woman would not be allowed to be permitted to exist in their society. That it was a very masculine society. It was very much about strength, and it was very much the survival of the fittest, and weakness was shunned. So the Apostle Paul didn't feel necessary 2,000 years ago to talk about what happens before submission, because he thought it all started at submission, when in fact it starts at strength in the man. Now here's what I discovered about women, and when I say they don't know what they want, because most women get infuriated when a man is stern with them, when a man is unbending, when a man is a man, when a man doesn't back down, when a man doesn't take their crap. It infuriates them because it goes against the feminist narrative. It goes against the idea of 50-50. It goes against the idea, and really, let's be honest, women that say 50-50, they really mean 90-10 in their favor. That there's this battle of who's going to be in charge of everything, who's going to be in control, who's going to make the final decision, who gets the last word. That's this competitive nature is ingrained in you through the culture, through the movies, through the music, right? Through ad campaigns, through social media now. We can all talk about the culture war, and we can all see it to the point where most of us recognize that most movies now don't even have a male hero figure. They have a superhuman female butt kicker who fights the bad guys just right along like they were stronger than a man. And they'll suspend the reality of the world to push that narrative because they're trying to control society. They're trying to bring disunity in the family, to break down to the community, to break down the national unity and the narrative, and control the narrative and create two sides who will eventually destroy each other. Classic divide and conquer. We see it politically, but we don't see how it happened first in the home. So I would say if it's hard for a woman to submit to you, it's because you're less than a man. I'm going to be the strong guy that'll stand up like the old men would and say, "Stop crying, Nancy." Now, I'm a soft-hearted guy and I cry, but what I'm talking about is bending under pressure or standing your ground. I think anybody that's studied modern dating is familiar with the phenomenon of women in the beginning of new relationships testing the man. Most men fail this test. It's a strength test. It's a test for weakness. And if a woman accepts a man like that, it's just for the purpose of controlling him. If a man rolls over, if a woman tests him and he fails the test and he shows his weakness, this is not going to be popular. I don't know. Thank you, Lord. The Lord says, I'm going to keep getting paid for doing my job as a preacher, and I'm not going to lose out on this. But this is so controversial, it's threatening. It could threaten my channel, and I'm bravely walking into this because I believe in it. And I have practiced what I preached. And I'm seeing it work in the lives of the families of people, and in the lives of men who listen to what I have to say. Because the first level is not, wives, submit to your husbands. Paul left that out because in his day, all men were strong. All men were unwavering. No man would let a woman tell him what to do. In fact, this spirit of rebellion and control of men by women in Christian circles is referred to as a thing called the Jezebel spirit. In previous supernatural discussions, I have told you that that is the spirit that is primarily at odds with God right now. That this primary spirit over the United States and Western civilization as a whole is the spirit of Jezebel. And it's related to the spirit of Lilith, which is also against children. And they're in cahoots. Because I'll tell you, as an exorcist and a demonologist, that demons travel in no less than pairs. And they prefer large groups. And I've never cast one devil out without me realizing that there was another one holding his hand, and they both had to go because they were working together as a team. So Lilith and Jezebel are the primary demons by name that we are dealing with in our culture that engineered all this stuff that we're talking about. They engineered the culture. They created the false narrative. They caused the division. They caused the disunion in our union for the purpose of bringing down Western culture, America, and the remnants of what's called the church. So, 1611 on the timer. You Bible students will know that one is important. King Jamesers for sure. It's funny, I looked down, it said 1611. So this has been a plot. It's been a 100-year plan. And for it to work, it required weak men. Because let me tell you, what a woman really wants, this is what I found out. A woman doesn't want a weak man that they can push around. And they're constantly trying to test you and trying to push you around. And there's a certain strength missing in the American men that I have encountered. That I've said in the past, here I am, a piano player, kind of light in the loafers, and I'm the most macho guy around. I'm the guy with the most backbone. I'm the guy that's able to say no, that stands up for what he believes in, who has the guts to go out and say the hard things. How did that happen? I used to be surrounded by these men from the greatest generation. Those were strong men. And now I'm supposed to be the strong one? What has happened to the rest of you? That I'm the strong one. See, the bottom line is a woman's not sexually attracted to a man that she can push around. Woman is only sexually attracted to a strong man, even if it fights this narrative, even if they I mean, I'm telling you, I've been in relationships with women in this stage where they're trying to control me and I'm telling them no, and they're like, and they'll say, damn you, and walk out, but they keep coming back because I'm the one they want, because I'm the one they can't push around, because I'm the one that will stand up to anybody. And that's important to a woman. For if no other reason than the primary position a man plays in a woman's life, and that is protector. We're bigger for a reason. They choose us because that's part of it. If you think that athleticism does not play any role in attraction, you're wrong. But there's got to be a backbone and a strong will to go with that strength, or it's useless. Doesn't matter how strong physically a man is if he crawls away on his hands and knees. What I'm talking about is, you men out there that think it's all the women's fault, I'm asking you to look in the mirror and say, did I become weak? Did I show weakness when I should have shown strength? Did I choose to sacrifice my ethics or my personal self-respect just to get some? Just to get in the door, you know what I mean? Just to keep her coming back around. And then you wonder why a woman doesn't respect you. You wonder why a woman falls out of love with you. I don't believe a woman can love a man she doesn't respect. I don't believe she can love truly a man that she can boss around. And those that have men like that are not happy. And their eye is always on the horizon. They're with Mr. Weak because he does what she says, but who she's really attracted to is type A personality man over there. They don't take crap off of nobody. But she won't humble herself enough to be with him. And she'd rather be in charge of a man that she doesn't respect, nor is she no longer attracted to. This is controversial, but I believe I've stumbled across the truth. I believe that God has used the situations of my life and the lives of those around me to show me the mistakes that are being made. And like all leadership, this is a true thing of leadership. The buck stops here, right? Teddy Roosevelt said the buck stops here. And that's an acceptance of a responsibility of leadership. So if our families are divided and our women are living in houses with other men and raising their children instead of ours, it's our fault, men. I'm willing to say that's my fault. I dropped the ball. If this is your life, it's because you failed. Don't blame it on her. That's what a weak man does. Take responsibility. Talk to women about this. Women, talk amongst yourselves. I think if you were honest, you would say that you're really not attracted to a weak man. You're attracted to a strong man. And that any sign of character weakness, any sign of wishy-washy, waffly, back and forth, rubbery inconsistency is a giant turnoff in a really in a physical way, that you'll have a physical response to a weak man and you'll have a physical response to a strong man, and I'll let the viewer use their imagination, but it's measurable. It's chemical, it's hormonal, it's psychological, and yes, it's spiritual as well. That women crave strong spiritual men that cannot be swayed by the devil. Women crave strong men who can't be convinced to throw them under the bus for their benefit or because their buddy said so. They don't really want the beta guy that goes along with the pack. They want the guy that sets the standards, or they want the Sigma male like me, the lone wolf who is so independent that he barely has room in his life for another person. They're not attracted to guys who go along to get along, even though that's whom they may be surrounded by. And that is the evil trap that women have fallen into. And the narrative is so opposed to your natural feelings that it causes confusion. But make no bones about it, if we were the kind of men the Apostle Paul was talking to, if we were the kind of strong men who took care of their families, who provided for their families, who would never dream of sending their wife into another man's house to work for him if they had to sell their organs to prevent it, that they would sell themselves into indentured servanthood before they put their wife under the employment of another man. That's how the world used to be. Because men understood then, people understood then what I talk about now, that we are attracted to who we labor with, who we fail with, who we succeed with, that we grow to love those that we're surrounded by and spend our time with, good, bad, and ugly. And if your woman's at work all the time, she's bonding with someone other than you. And that's just some truth you can't run from, right? And so what we have is not we don't have a problem with a rebellious generation of women. We don't have a problem with even culture. We have a problem with men who don't want to stand up and be men. They don't want the buck to stop with them. They don't want to share they don't want to own the responsibility of making a decision when they can share it or even put it on her. That way, if we fail, it's her fault. See, it's easy. And it's some of the benefit for women to submit is that once you put the man in charge, if he screws up, it's kind of on him. It's on him. I'm not in charge. He's the guy that did that. There's a lot of freedom in that. Plus, you don't have to be the one in charge, which is a lot of responsibility. But a woman can't submit to a man that can push her around. They can't submit to a man that acts weak. They can't submit to a man who doesn't do what a man's supposed to do. So I became much more successful in love. With hit and miss, I'll admit. But I became more successful as a human being when I decided that before I could make a woman submit to me, first of all, you can't make them. Either they do or they don't. But before I could make a woman submit to me, I had to become the kind of man that a woman might submit to. That I couldn't be weak. I couldn't be wishy-washy. I couldn't put up with their crap. I couldn't let them walk on me. I couldn't say, yes, dear, ever. I couldn't be that guy. If I wanted that respect, I had to be the guy that's respectable. If you want to be treated like a man, act like a man. This message today is for you, my brothers. Man up. Do the hard things in life. Now, you can't go overboard and be hard. That's what a bad man does. You still have to, when you really, okay, it's a combination of things, and there's an order to it. In the beginning, you have to be unwavering until you see the woman respond to that, until you see the woman becoming more submissive, deciding on you, choosing on you. Then if she runs, if she tests you, if she tries you, you have to be hard at that point, right? It's kind of like pursue what you want, choose the woman you're after, present her with your deal. If she doesn't take it or if she tests you, walk away. Walk away. Don't talk to her. Don't chase her. And if she is the kind of woman that can respect you, if she is the kind of woman that respects strength, then she's going to soften, because that's the natural role. And she'll come to you. If she doesn't, she was untamable from the beginning. We have to stop being tested by women and start testing them. And not only that, we got to stop flunking their test and flip the test on them. Show them that strength. If a woman is with you at the beginning of a relationship and she pays attention to another man, get up, turn around, walk out, get in your car, and leave her right there in the bar by herself or in the restaurant. With her running behind you going, hey, what happened? Because she knows what she did. And too many times we play the game, well, I'm going to flirt with this other one then and show her that. That's just stupid games. It's another sign of weakness. A real man goes, nope, not for me. I won't be treated like this. Adios. Those are the guys that get their pick of the very best women. Those are the guys who have stronger relationships. Those are the guys that are happier. And oddly enough, when a woman does that, it'll open up a softness in a man. He still can't be bullied because of the strength. He's still going to be the man. But now he's the man that rubs your back because he knows you worked all day. He's the man that brings you flowers because he knows it's been a while since he showed you that he loved you. The same strong man that can't be moved, can't be wavered, can't be bargained with, can't be controlled, can't be dictated to, will take you on a fabulous trip and make it all about you for your birthday. This man that will never back down will see sometimes in some situations when it's important to her that she really does need this or want it. And she's been submissive, but she's also told me what she needs. And I'm going to break my own strength and put it aside and do something soft and tender and give her what she wants, as long as she doesn't demand it. I think through all my failures, through the failures and successes of others I've encountered, that this life of wandering has put me in contact with more people than many of you people can imagine, because your worlds are smaller. When you pick up and start in a new place all over again, you get to meet a whole new set of people and get to know them. And I've done it so many times that this has taught me. This is why I'm a sage. I'm coming at you with wisdom, and I'm begging you. Men act like men if you want a woman to be a woman to you. If you're not the man, she's going to be the man. And I'll leave you with this brief Bible story for you. The principal demon I talked about earlier, Jezebel, isn't actually based on a real situation and a real person. There was a man named Ahab. He wasn't the king, but he was put in charge while the king went away to fight a many-decade campaign against an enemy in the battlefield. And in the course of this time, this man Ahab turned out to be not a very strong man, and his wife, Jezebel, was very strong, very controlling, very sexual, a very powerful woman. And he was the kind of man that would do whatever she said. And from the very beginning, she started to take over. She started to become in charge. She started to become the queen and was known as Queen Jezebel. And King Ahab was just a puppet. If you came to King Ahab and said, hey, I want to approach you as the king, I need the king's help, he would just defer you to Jezebel. And a prophet known for great miracles that rivaled what Jesus would eventually do, a man named Elijah, condemned this abuse of power, this wicked woman who had put her husband into submission and claimed the throne erroneously. He called her out in public. She put a hit out on him, and he had to run for his life in the desert and hide from her. But eventually, and of course, just as we all know, he cursed her and said that the dogs would drink her blood or lick her blood in the street. And then he went into hiding. Well, the king eventually, the real king, the true king, eventually overcame his enemies, and his campaign ended, and he came home. And as he approached home, he began to hear more and more about the misdeeds of Queen Jezebel, the wife of the steward he left behind to guard his kingdom in his absence. He heard of the weakness of Ahab to let this woman become a wicked, controlling, evil tyrant of what once was a peaceful kingdom under the control of God, where a prophet was celebrated, not hunted in the wilderness. So the king comes home, and by the time he gets to this palace, he's heard so much about Queen Jezebel and Ahab, this worm man, that he's going to exert his authority in a pretty severe way. This is from the Bible. Correct me if I get the details wrong, but I believe he slew Ahab first for his weakness. And then he threw Jezebel out of a high balcony onto the concrete below in the street, where the street dogs drank her blood, just like Elijah said it would happen. But more than a morality tale, this tells us the true nature of a non-submissive woman starts with a weak man. That any woman can become a Jezebel if her man first becomes an Ahab. And that there's a spirit of darkness that wants to flip on its head the natural authority and the natural union and the natural even chemistry reaction. A woman's just hotter for the tough guy. It's not a bad boy thing, it's a strong guy thing. And women, be honest, you know that it's true. No one wants to be submitted to a man or love a man who they can't trust to protect them. In every way that means. There's many ways to protect a woman. When we abdicate our responsibilities as men, when we get the attitude of whatever you want, dear, whatever you say, dear, not that I don't believe a happy wife is a happy life. I just don't think rolling over on your back is how you make a woman happy. I do believe in a happy wife, and that's not the road to it. To just let her be in charge of everything and you just play second fiddle all the time. And that's really what most feminists are trying to work towards, even though they've discovered now, after many years of experimentation, that that does not make a woman happy. That a woman wants to be partnered with a strong man. She doesn't want to be in charge, but she wants to be considered and regarded. She wants her voice to be heard, her opinion to matter. She wants to be given a life of purpose. And she wants to look back on her life and her children and her grandchildren with a sense that she accomplished something in this world. And this corporate life of acting like a man and laying up money and 401ks and stock portfolios does not actually make a woman happy. It's the totality of a life filled with love and genuine admiration of the man she's with, and a knowing that someone cares for her more than they care for themselves. You know that I'm speaking the truth. Those of you that know that I'm speaking the truth, know this. I can't keep doing this if you don't pay my bills so that I can keep figuring out these hard things. I can keep putting the brain power and the prayer time and the time on my face before God to come up with this stuff, to see these holes in our society and then unravel the devil's plot against us. So please support this channel. I vigorously need an influx of some cash before the first of the year. And I'm asking you to reach down deep. There's a PayPal description. You can make a contribution that way. Also the P.O. Box. But I want you to understand, I'm going to do my best to tell the truth, whether I'm getting paid or not, because I'm a truth teller and that's what I do. But it takes time to unravel these complex schemes of the devil and to bring forth this truth and light for you in the face of losing subscribers. So if you got anything from this, please contribute to the cause. And I'll leave you with this powerful prayer. May God surround you and your family in this ring of fire, in His ring of fire and hedge of thorns of protection. May He send mighty angels of sufficient rank, authority, and number to drive the enemy from your midst. And may He then surround you in His peace and envelop you with the peace of the Holy Spirit. And may God bless your unions. May God bless our union, our unity, our community, and our national unity. May we be one voice again in agreement. In Jesus' name.